I'm so glad that you've joined us here at Thrive in the Word today. We're going to continue our study of the seven churches of Revelation, in which we're actually getting about halfway done with the church at Philadelphia. Before we get into that, just let me ask you to do this. If you'll hit the like button and if you'll hit the subscribe button, you know what? It will help us. If you hit the like button, then YouTube knows that people are liking what we're saying, and they'll give us more coverage. They'll help us to reach more people. So would you do that for us today? So we're talking about this wonderful, wonderful church at Philadelphia. Now, the church at Philadelphia is one of two churches that Jesus had nothing good, or excuse me, had nothing bad to say about. Nothing bad. He said he has nothing against the church at Philadelphia. You know, I think that we need to really take some time, and that's what we're doing actually, to really look into what Jesus is saying. You see, Jesus is saying, because you've kept my word, because you've watched over my word, because you made sure that my word, and he calls it the word, my word of perseverance, or the word of my perseverance, because you kept it, because you've watched over it, then Jesus says in this promise, he says, I will watch over you. I will keep you. Now we're in verse number 10, and this is then what he says. And he says, I will keep you from the hour of testing, that hour which is about to come upon the whole world, to test those who dwell on the earth. Now, what is this? What is Jesus talking about? Well, I believe Jesus is talking about not just a time of testing, but I believe he's talking about a very specific time of testing. Now, again, we need to realize that this is a book of Revelation. It's a book of that shows us who Jesus is, not who Jesus was, but who Jesus is right now, and who Jesus is in his coming. That's what the book of Revelation is all about. Now, what's he talking about? That I will keep you from the hour of testing. What's Jesus talking about? Well, when he says the hour of testing, Jesus is talking about a very specific time period. How many of you know that you say, this is going to take an hour? You're talking about a very specific time period. Now, what is this hour of testing? What is Jesus going to keep the church from? What's he going to watch over the church from? This hour of testing. Let me tell you what I believe he's talking about. I believe he's talking about what we would call the tribulation. You say, well, what is the tribulation? Well, the tribulation is a 7-year period divided into two parts, but it's when God pours out tribulation and trouble upon the earth. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I don't believe in that. Well, then you don't believe the Bible, because it's in the Bible. There's going to come a 7-year period of time in which there's going to be trouble on the earth like the earth has never seen it before. Now, you might be thinking, man, I think the earth is in tribulation already. And I know some people that are actually believe that there's only one problem. The church is still here. You see, there's coming a 7-year period in which all kinds of trouble is going to break out. The last 3.5 years of that 7-year period, we're going to see the wrath of God poured out upon this earth. Now, what is Jesus saying? He's saying to this church who's overcoming. He's saying to this church who's winning. He's saying to this church who's keeping and watching over and holding tight to his word. He's saying to them, you know what? This is my guarantee for you. This is my promise to you. He's saying, I'm going to keep you as the church from that hour of testing. In other words, I'm going to take you away from that time of testing. I'm going to take you away. I'm going to keep you away from that testing. Notice what he says also in verse number 10. That's about to come upon the whole world. Where's tribulation going to come? It's going to come upon the whole world. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why I believe that Jesus is talking about the Great Tribulation, because this is not a tribulation that's going to come upon the church at Philadelphia or even the churches of Asia Minor. This is a tribulation that's going to come upon the whole world. You know what? When the tribulation begins, there's going to be no escaping it. The only way that you can escape the tribulation period is for you to keep and honor and watch over the Word of God for your life. So Jesus is saying this tribulation, it's going to come upon the whole world. Not just the United States, not just Russia, not just Africa. The whole world is going to come under a 7-year period of tribulation. Now let's go back to the scriptures. And it's going to test those who dwell on the earth. What's it going to do? This tribulation is going to test. It's going to, you see, when a test comes to reveal things. I've had medical tests, and you know why they test? They test me. They're testing me to see what's wrong. Well, Jesus is going to take the world, and he's going to bring a time of trial, a time of testing to see what's wrong with you. In other words, he's going to make it very obvious that the problem that you're going through is sin. You see, now remember that Jesus is keeping the church away from that. Jesus has already taken the church away. But at the end of tribulation, you know what? The people are going to realize that the reason that they went through it is because they neglected Jesus and his word. I want to say to you today, if you're not a believer, make sure that you give your life over to Jesus, because times of tribulation are coming upon the whole world. Thank you for watching.